Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to this week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. Thanks for being here with us tonight.
Yeah.
We always kind of start out with a local fishing report, or at least local to us. So we always say that we are central or northeast Wisconsin, kind of the border between those two areas. But the funny thing is, we actually did not fish our local home waters this past weekend. So we got to go up north, almost to the border of Michigan, and conditions are quite different there than they are here.
Yeah, we were over on Big Portage, I believe it was, and they must have gotten some good early ice because it held up to the snow so good, in fact, that in the spots we were drilling in, at least, we were only looking at 12 to 14 inches of ice, whereas down here, Shawano Lake's reporting 20 plus, but we don't have nearly that much snow. So, it's still varying a lot. It's kind of weird to be able to say, a foot of ice in middle of February. So still be checking that stuff before you guys drive out there. And but yeah, I mean, sounds like Lake Winnebago and the sturgeon spearing's been going good. We've been seeing some big ones come out. And it sounds like so far, most people have been pretty safe. I haven't heard of any catastrophes going on. So yeah, it's rolling.
That is all true. And with that, there's going to be Battle on Bago coming up this weekend. So,
Hey, Jay.
again, don't assume conditions, but especially if you're going to be on a big lake, a big body of water that you've never been to before, the great thing to do is check out the local fishing clubs, check out all the fishing reports. A lot of times people are looking for different maps and stuff of cracks and all of that. And, just a reminder that those are all different situations that change and sometimes super, super quickly. So if you are in a situation where you're looking for a map and you're frustrated that you can't find one, in some cases that's on purpose, because if you ended up with old information and use that as your guide, then that's not helpful at all. So, consult those Facebook pages and websites and anybody local that you can, definitely bait shops and stuff like that, because that is where that local information comes from.
Yep.
So hello to Jay. Thanks for joining us. Seeing a few comments coming in. If you guys have local fishing reports or ice reports, sometimes that's kind of the same thing and sometimes that's different. Come drop that in the comments because we love to see what it's like for you out there. Maybe I'll come and fish your waters. Not this weekend though, because I'll be at Battle on Bago.
Yeah. And I'm sneaking out somewhere else. But yeah, so let's switch gears a little bit, and we prep for open water a little differently because our start of our open water season is a little bit more walleye centric, but some people like our buddy Matt here has already started his open water season, and if you haven't started following the MLF, get your fantasy picks in, make sure Matt's in your wheelhouse there. And hey Matt, how's it going?
Good, Josh. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while since I got to talk to both of you guys on Hook, Line, and Striker, so I'm excited to be here again and see where our conversation takes us tonight.
That is for sure. And we did love having you on last time, so I'm so happy that you could be here today. In case there's anybody that missed that other show or maybe doesn't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a full-time professional fisherman, primarily a tournament-based fisherman. I've been fishing the professional circuit, which I started with the FLW Tour. We've since merged with the Major League Fishing, so now it's the Major League Fishing Pro Circuit. And I've done that for 12 years, and the last 7 or 8 has been full-time fishing. On the side, I do a little bit of guiding, which I kind of I actually have put that on hold for this summer, or at least I'm not taking any guide trips at the moment, to pursue some other opportunities which have come out of my YouTube stuff. So I plan to do quite a bit more YouTube content this year and try to concentrate on that. But yeah, I'm somehow making a career at pursuing little green fish.
and apparently doing YouTube. But the funny thing about that is you do really have a great mix of content on there.
Mhm.
And so, we were just kind of joking before the show, everything from like cute little videos about your chickens. That was pretty funny. They were slipping on the ice the other day.
Yeah.
All the way to some real like hard hitting information, like real tutorials and tricks and all of those cool things. So, how do you come up with all that?
Man, so I do a video a day, at least a video a day. Occasionally I'll put 2 videos up if like the day with the chicken video, I just put that up because I thought that was funny. For those of you that haven't seen it, there's a ice patch that the chickens slide on every day. It's been there for the last 4 months by my garage, and they walk by it and they slip on it and fall on their butts. And I made a 15-second video of it. But so yeah, no, I'm being that I put videos out every day, I'm constantly looking for ideas, and it really is more of just because I live the life of fishing. I'm constantly thinking about it, whether I'm driving in the car or down here in my basement tinkering with tackle. And anytime something pops into my head that I think could be of value to somebody, I write it down in my phone. So I've got a list in my phone right now. I think I just put down idea number 770 something. So I've done a lot of those at this point, but I've probably got 300 or 400 ideas in my phone. And the unfortunate part is living here in Wisconsin, as you guys know, because most of my stuff is centered around open water fishing. I have a bunch of really fun ideas that I want to do, but I can't do them because we got, like you said, 20 inches of ice on the water. So it's just one of those things where I'm always trying to think of content, and I really don't have a specific theme to the show other than it's fishing based. Like today's video that came out is how to repair rods that have been smashed. So like if you have the butt of a rod that got smashed in a boat compartment or somebody stepped on it, there's a very easy way to fix that and make it a perfectly good rod. So today that's what it was. Tomorrow it might be on, fishing something down south, and the next day it might be something totally different. But it's just kind of what I feel like doing that day. And yeah, it's been going really well. I didn't expect it to go anywhere remotely close to how well it's gone. And because it's gone so well, it's opening up a lot of doors in my career, which I didn't have just from being a tournament fisherman, which is weird because now I go to tournaments and people come up to say hi to me and they know me as a YouTuber. And I'm like, I've been fishing for 12 years pretty successfully, but 1 year of YouTube work puts me in front of that many more people that, I'm just going with it. So, like I said before, if I can make a career following, pursuing my passion of fishing, then I'm happy. If that means I'm putting out YouTube content and fishing tournaments, then I'm happy. I'm just letting the career take me where it goes right now.
Well, and speaking of being happy, Jay is asking about favorite presentations to use. So, you are kicking off open water here. So, I mean, what were you excited to go and get back into the water?
Yeah, it's that's kind of a question in terms of favorite presentation. It's tough to answer because it's like, are we talking right when ice comes out, or are we talking like just my favorite presentations?
Okay, I'm interested in both because that's different.
So for me, like my strengths are flipping and pitching. Like I like to fish heavy cover, a big rod, heavy line, close quarters with the fish. That's what I really enjoy doing. But when the ice comes off around here, you've got two different things going on. If you're looking for smallmouth, the smallmouth wintered relatively deep, or really deep. And right after the ice comes off, now that we're allowed to fish, before what was considered our opener, right? We've got the catch and release season. A lot of those fish will still be in or near their wintering stages. The smallmouth will be. So you'll start off fishing them deep, probably anywhere from 20 to 40 feet of water, but within a week or two, if we get decent weather, those fish will start moving up to already set up for their pre-spawn phase. So you start catching them up on the rock transitions and, you know, in that 10 foot of water or less. The largemouth, though, as you know, you guys know, a lot of times they'll just set up right under the ice up in the shallow waters if you've got good green weeds, and that's where they're going to be as soon as the ice comes off. I mean, they look for the warmest water possible. So if you've got some shallow, dark bottom bays, you know, kind of like the areas where pads would be in the summer, those are really good areas to look right after the ice comes off, and they'll be there up until about the spawn or into the spawn.
Well, and you know, a little bit interesting to, you know, remember that largemouth and smallmouth might be doing different things. I think so often people are out looking for like bass, you know, so generic like that. But you know, consider what those fish really are doing at those times. That really is important.
Yeah, they as much as we think they intermingle because we have a lot of lakes that just have structure and cover that they both use, they really do set up differently when you're talking about the cold water periods.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I hate to say you're almost making me excited for smallies. I mean, I love ice fishing, but smallies are fun.
Emily, that's not a bad thing. Smallmouth, they are a fantastic creature, and I think everyone's excited to catch some smallmouth.
And if you're not, you should be. Oh my gosh. I hate to just jump in this and switch the topic. Well, actually, before I do that, okay, sorry. This is really confusing to everybody at home. I apologize. I almost skipped over the other part of Jay's question though. So we were talking about presentations. He did also ask about rod and reel. So when you're doing those different tactics, what are you using?
Yeah, so my go-to are bait casting gear, and I build all my own rods, which is one of the things we were talking before the show started that I like to do during the winter is my rod building. But so you know, I'm looking my kind of go-to rods, just standard bait casting rod that you can use across the board. I've probably got 4 or 5 in my boat at all times. Would be a 7.3 medium heavy action, fast action rod. That's kind of a great all-purpose rod that you can use from, you know, anything from some lighter action baits, some top water, spinner baits, swim jigs. You can pitch with it. You can do a little bit of everything. Great utility rod. And then from a reel standpoint, I've got a various array of different Abbey Garcia bait casting reels that I'll have geared up. Generally, though, I'm more high speed ratio, like 8-to-1, just because I feel like it's easier for me to. If I've got a higher speed reel, it's easier for me to slow down versus trying to go super fast if I need to catch up to a fish. So I'd rather have the high speed ratio.
Well, and catching up to a fish. So is that something that's important, especially when you're talking like when you like flipping and
Yeah.
stuff like that? So you're in brush. So is that what you're talking about, catching up to fish so you can get them out of that?
Yeah, I actually have. I've been having nightmares about one that got away from me the second day of the first tournament of the year down on Sam Rayburn. I was catching my fish fishing shallow cypress trees and laydowns, and I had about 5 minutes to go before I had to leave a spot, and I pitched up into a little laydown and felt a nice tap. I reeled down I reeled down until I get the line to tighten up to set the hook, and it was just like I just kept reeling. And by the time I finally got the line to go tight, the fish had come past me and taken like a 90-degree turn. So, but I mean, by the time I reeled up and everything, I mean, I actually got a really good hook set. But I think what happened was like the fish was going away from me, which isn't necessarily a good thing when you set the hook versus swimming to the side or being in front of you. And I set the hook. I got a couple of really nice big head shakes out of them, and it just pulled out. And that was one where I was using a high speed reel, but I mean, it still was like so fast. I mean, it hit and must have just bolted right at me. And I mean, it happened all within a matter of seconds, and the fish was basically on the other side of the boat. It was the first time I've ever had that happen so drastically. But the thing is, I was fishing in about 1.5 feet of water, so that they really don't have anything else to do. It's not like they're just going to hunker down or try to go deep. They hit it, and they usually go to one side or the other. And this one just didn't go well, and I had like a pound and a halfer, and I feel very comfortable that this was like a 3 or 4 pound class fish, because I had caught several that size, and every one of the bigger bites did that. They hit the bait really hard, and then they either took a left or a right. I never had one come at me though, and that was the problem.
Well, and that's almost an interesting time of the season for me to be hearing this conversation because, being an ice fisherman, we always talk about, that up bite, if you have a spring bobber, to detect something like that. But it's so easy in open water season, no matter what species you're targeting, it could be panfish, it could be bass, it could be something else, you kind of live by that assumption, you set the hook and that fish takes off. And it's like, even just in that motion, it's like as if it was away from you. But that's not always the case. And just really kind of interesting, as an angler, it's a good point because a lot of times people will see that slack in the line and assume that fish is gone. But if you are able to reel up to that point where that line does have tension, you might still have a chance at it.
Yeah. This was one of those situations where I kept reeling. I knew he was coming at me, and I kept reeling as fast as I could, and my line just was bowed. And it's like, I don't understand, like, what's going on here. And that's the thing with fishing, right? You can't control what the fish is going to do, and it's a kind of a chess match. Whether they know what they're doing or not, there are things they can do to improve their advantage over us. And this was one where he got the best of me, and for the last 2 weeks now, I've been thinking quite a bit about it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know what you mean. We have Jeff asking, since you're local to Wisconsin, have you ever tried sturgeon spearing?
I haven't. It's something that I actually would enjoy to make a video out of, to show it off, because I don't know that there's many people that know that we do that here. I will say though that I'm a little bit perplexed on it, because not that I really have any issue with the spearing of it. I just don't understand why, like, when the sturgeon run's going on up the Wolf River, they're so protected. Like, you can't touch them, right? They are like, they've got the sturgeon patrol out there, stay away from the sturgeon. And then it's like, to me, during the spearing season, it's like the complete opposite. It's like a free for all, as barbaric as we can get in a way. And it's like, that's okay. So I really am not saying that, like, I think one's right and one's not right. It's always been something that just threw me for a loop. Like, on one hand, they're so protected and we take such good care of them. On the other hand, we got people throwing forks at them.
Yeah.
Well, and I can shed a little bit of light. So my background's in fisheries, and sturgeon, 10 years ago when I moved here, it was a fish that I didn't know very much about. And since living here, it's quickly become one of my favorite fish.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the culture around it. Dating back to pre-settlement, when like tribes like the Menominee used to harvest them up at the natural falls. And that kind of evolved into this, sustaining culture of eating them. But then due to water quality issues and things like that, their population kind of just started to decline. And it's been a real success story, actually, that we are allowed to have a spearing season like that, because what the DNR has done, they do a very extensive radio tagging of the sturgeon, and they'll all that is, it's just a little RFD, kind of like the chip in your card, and all they can scan it if they have the fish in their possession. So they're not tracking them with satellites or anything, but every spring they go through and they run the scanner over the top, and then they see which fish it is and see the previous measurements, and they can kind of gather like how much the fish are reproducing and how long they're staying in the system, and that gives them a number. And so we have a set season. I think it's like 2 weeks, but then if we hit that number, that quota of harvest, like let's say that happens in 2 days, it shuts down. So it's probably one of the most restrictive seasons that we have as far as harvesting animals. But I think think one of the big things to take out of it is that our natural resources department, especially in that area, has done really good job at doing that. And we are also successful in this. Our strain here on the Winnebago system is successful enough that we send out either fry or eggs to other parts of the country to kind of boost their populations and bring in a hardier strain of sturgeon. So I mean, I think it's a testament to like how good our professionals are doing in that area, and kind of our culture here in the Winnebago area.
Sure. So I have a question for you based along those same lines.
Mm-hmm.
And this is over on the Wisconsin River where I'm at. We've got, that kind of introduced the sturgeon back in. I mean, it's been probably 20 years. I mean, it's been a while now at this point. I mean, we've always had some, but the population here is phenomenal. I mean, we'll catch them right off the bank here at my house. My boys and I, when they're running, we will catch a pile of them. When, if they're not in front of the house, we won't catch them. But one thing, this is the question. One thing I've heard, because we don't get the same size that the Winnebago system has. We get, a lot of fish in that 40-inch range. And, we've caught, in the last couple of years, we've probably caught 4 or 5 that are like mid 50-inch range fish. And we had one that we did have one that we lost that was huge. I mean, it was probably 100-pound class fish. So huge for the Wisconsin River. What people have told me is that as sturgeon get bigger, they go downstream. So the bigger fish, once they age, are actually going down through the dams down to like Lake Wisconsin and the lower Wisconsin River. Is that something that there's some credibility to?
I think just like any big fish, they seek out the water that has the most available resources, and they seek out the most comfortable areas. And so for lake sturgeon, that might be just a little bit deeper water than the Wisconsin in your area has, or it might just be areas that have more food available just for providing for a fish of that size. But I mean, Emily and I, when we get a chance to like get out and do some catfishing, because hook and line is not, you can't target sturgeon. Except for there's certain inland seasons in September for a month. And so incidental catch is fine. You can,
just to be clear, we're not targeting them. We are throwing crawlers off the bank, catching everything that swims in the river. And if the school of sturgeon we're by a deep hole, we're on the back end. So what I found is on falling water, when we have high water, if the water's dropping, we'll catch sturgeon. If the water's not dropping, we won't ever catch one. But that seems like that's how it is. So I'm not targeting, just to be
right.
Clear,
Yeah. And that's a pastime for a lot of people. Like just soaking crawlers in a river is like the best fishing you're ever gonna have, quite honestly, because you can catch everything that swims from muskies to sturgeon. So
to smallies.
So smallies. So, but like so Emily and we do some catfishing up, and we have some holes that we like to go catfishing in, and
there's some good ones.
We're very high in the Wolf River system as far as fish traveling. We're almost to the point where just north of us, maybe 30 river miles, is where the DNR does a lot of their sturgeon collection and data collecting in the spring. So we're super high up, and later in the season, we're catfishing probably July. Both of us have 80-inch fish that we've caught. Wow. So one thing that I've learned in my 10 years of fishing this system is that when we're catfishing, we use oversized gear, and that's mostly to protect the fish. And I also use, appropriately sized for channel catfish or flathead. But we always use barbless circle hooks too, just because we know that we'll get those incidental catches. And we're, just like you're using a high-speed reel, we use overpowered gear to get that fish up as fast as we can, get it off the hook. And if you can manage a safe, quick picture, that's totally okay. I've verified that with the DNR on several occasions. And but like as quick and as safely as you can take that fish off, they want you to take it off. So, but it's a very neat fish. And you were mentioning like the sturgeon run. If anybody out there is listening, this is a destination during the April and May months. I highly recommend you do. There's areas where you can get within 5 feet of these fish swimming along the shoreline because they're spawning, and it's like one of the most awesome things you'll ever see.
Well, and we can sit here and tell you about how big they are, but until you actually see, it's not even the length. I was going to say the height because they're taller than me, but like how big around they are. And these fish are just like dinosaurs. Honestly, it just feels, it's exciting. Kids love it. Adults love it. Just people of all ages just gather there. And that is exciting. That is coming up.
Yeah, that is coming up. We'll have to do some videos of it.
Ryan's saying that you need to spear one.
I need to spear one. Ryan, that's funny that you say that because like I'll probably be the last one to spear one. And then mostly that comes from just me. I don't know what I would do with that much fish to eat. Quite honestly, I don't know if I want a whole freezer full of sturgeon. I don't personally like freezing fish. Don't get me wrong. It's fine for some people, but like we fish enough that we can go get enough fish for just us to eat for whatever meal we want. So it's like, we just eat what we catch, and I don't think I could eat that much sturgeons. So as fun as that would be, like I love the whole culture. Like, we're gonna start collecting like some spearing culture to put up on the wall, and like I think it's awesome. I follow all the DNR emails of like where the catch is, and it's super cool. Like if you ever get a chance to visit the ice, and see the whole progress of all that down there, it's super awesome. But it just, the whole taking it from the system, that's just not for me. I'll incidental catch them all day, but I just would rather let them go.
And if anybody's going to spear one, then I hope, we do have on our ladies staff, and actually not me, another lady named Emily. And she has a tag and everything. And, just was looking to get out this year. So I'm going to have to catch up with her. I know that she was kind of on an adventure to find someone to, teach her and all of that. So we're going to have to catch up after sturgeon season and see how that went for her.
Yeah. Well, so I've been chatting a whole bunch about sturgeon, and Matt's sitting here listening patiently, but you should tell us how your trip down to Florida went. I believe you were in the top third.
Yeah, that's the tournament I was talking about, that we were in Texas. We were at Sam Rayburn.
Yeah.
And, I'm not gonna. It went all right. I mean, I came out of there with a good check. I think I finished 45th, which is a good finish. Anything inside the top 50 where you qualify to fish the third day, you get a good $10,000 plus check. And it's just a really good start to the year in terms of a point standpoint. And I'm kind of mixed on it. Like I said, I feel like I lost that one fish that would have moved me up quite a bit, but I had such a terrible practice that to come out of there with a decent finish is fantastic. Like sometimes you just struggle in practice and you're like, I really don't know what I'm going to do. And in this case, I just kind of went with it, and I made it work for 2 days and got out of there in decent position. So I'm not going to complain about it. I would probably rather started in Florida just because the weather's always nice, and in Texas, I mean, it really wasn't anything special. We were fishing in 40 and 50 degree temps with sub-freezing temperatures in the morning. So it wasn't like some glorious vacation trip like we get when we go to Florida. But it was a really good start to the year. My goal is to be inside the top 10 in points at the end of the year, because then that qualifies me for the Bass Pro Tour, which is level above us now. But they've got, significantly increased payouts and exposure. So that's where I would like to end up by the end of the year. And in my opinion, if I have 6 tournaments that are all top 50s or better, I'll be right there.
You're talking about fishing down in Texas. And that's actually, because we have ice season here, that's making me wonder, do those fish set up different? Do you have to have different mindsets fishing, early season bass down there versus early season bass up here?
They definitely are different fish and how they set up. I mean, they don't have like their wintering down there is not like the wintering we have here. Like they don't, in my opinion, they don't ever really get into a winter mode. They go from like fall transition into a very early pre-spawn mode. So the fish are set up a little bit differently in terms of their staging still like right outside of the spawning areas. And I actually think some of the fish I caught in that tournament were spawning fish, even though we had water temps that were in the mid 50s. And that just has to do with, I mean, when we were there, it was cold, but that was the first cold blast of weather they had all winter. I mean, it was like in the mid 70s every day for
Wow.
the months prior to that, which is really unusual. But the fish just were spread out; they were scattered. I think that's one of the reasons why the fishing was tougher for everybody. It seemed like, but yeah, the lakes down there are a little bit different. They're much more of that lowland impoundment, so they have a lot more like drainage ditch type water. So when the lake's down, you get the runoff creates these drains and ditches, and they're just a lot flatter. So you could be a mile offshore fishing 6 feet of water. We're here. You have that in some instances, but there you really don't have that much extreme depth unless you're in the true old river channel. So it's just one of those things where it takes a little bit of getting used to the different regions of the country. And Texas is just a different beast in itself.
Jeff is asking, I can't talk. During your tournaments, do you fish alone with a partner or do they team you up with somebody?
The tournaments that I'm fishing, we get paired up with what we refer to as a marshal. So somebody's in the back of my boat and they're there to record my fish catches, make sure I'm not breaking any sort of rules. They can't help me in any manner. They're not allowed to, give me any sort of fishing advice or hand me the net or hand me a rod. They can't do anything like that, but they're more of an official person to have in the boat. And yeah, that's who else is in the boat at this point. We used to, up until a couple of years ago, we used to have what was referred to as a co-angler, which was a individual that was fishing against the other co-anglers. So they were like an amateur in the back of the boat fishing against, the fish they caught were weighed against the other people. So it wasn't like a team event, but they got rid of that. I want to say it's been 3 or 4 years at this point. We've been down to the marshal.
And that marshal, I've heard that they do have to be like really specific. I think I've heard the term like you can't show any kind of favoritism or anything. And so, it's not even somebody that's even like sitting around or joking around with you in the boat. Like I imagine that, there might be some amount of conversation, but it's not like you just have a friend there or something.
Yeah, most of them. So they go through training to do it. And from what I've been told, they're actually kind of informed not to engage in conversation unless the pro is engaging them in conversation. So it can be a pretty silent day in the boat if you're not looking to talk, that's for sure. But for the most part, I mean, they're always very pleasant to have. I mean, they're there more than anything to learn and just watch us fish, but they've got the responsibility of making sure that I'm not doing something that I shouldn't be doing, or I'm not, breaking rules depending on what the format is. In some of the formats, if it's a catch weight release, at that point, there's like time penalties. So if a fish hits the carpet, you get a 2-minute penalty. So in the BPT events, which like last year I was able to fish one of those, our championships are kind of in that same format. You can get time penalties. So they are there to enforce the penalties. In like the Sam Rayburn event that I was just at, they're there just to kind of make sure that I'm not doing anything that I shouldn't be doing from a fishing standpoint, fishing in an off limits area, or if I catch a fish that was hooked outside the mouth. In some states, you're not allowed to keep those fish. So rules like that versus tournament rules that are there to enforce penalties based on the tournament rule.
Plus, I think it's really funny because we've all seen on TV, like, where you'll catch like a big fish and then the guy will like go over to hug him and he's like unprepared and he's like, that cracks me up.
I'm very calm generally in the boat, but occasionally you'll catch that fish like right at the end of the day, or it'll be a big fish where it maybe qualified you for the next day of fishing, or guaranteed you a check. And I've been known to give out some nice butt slaps to the marshals. Because that's what happens. You're all excited. You put the fish in the live well, you turn around, and generally the marshal's standing there, like getting out of your way. So you just turn around and you give them a good high five to the rear end, and everyone is happy, and you get back to fishing.
And you get back to fishing. Unless the round is over, and that's why you're happy you caught your big fish.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. It looks like Jay has seen that too for sure. That's funny. So I guess like with the rest of your open water season, where are you traveling to next?
Yeah, well, now I get to go to Florida. The first full week of March, I'll be at the Harris Chain of Lakes outside. So that'll be nice. And then from there, where am I going? Pickwick in Alabama, Gunnersville in Alabama, the James River in Virginia, Lake Champlain in upstate New York, and then our championship is the St. Lawrence River in upstate New York, which I would really like to have another shot at because I finished second in the event there last year and should have won that event. I lost a lot of big fish that would have easily secured that win. Only because
they swam at you, though.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That was lots of 5 and 6 pound smallmouth and super heavy current with 6 pound test, and zebra mussels don't generally go.
Oh, no.
But I mean, it's one of those things to do as well as I did. I was catching a lot of really big fish, and I just lost. Well, the first day I lost 2, and then every day after that, the last 3 days I lost 1, but every one of those were good ones. Good ones. I can think of about 70,000 reasons why they cost me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I'm actually really impressed at your memory that you were able to get your whole tournament list, because we have it actually pulled up on our other screen here, which Josh is pointing to, and none of you can see it at home because it's our second screen. But it is really fun to be able to follow you guys and the schedule and everything that goes on. So MajorLeagueFishing.com just has all kinds of cool stuff. And in this case, we have the schedule up. But like as Josh had mentioned earlier, they even do have what do you call it? Major League Fishing, where you put your people in, like fantasy.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Fantasy fishing. So lots of really cool stuff to check out if you go to that site. Good question. Jay is asking, do you know what your biggest weigh is on the MLF circuit?
My biggest weight?
Yeah, your biggest weigh-in.
So the total weight that I've weighed, the biggest single day bag that I've weighed, I'm gonna I feel like I should know this, right? I think the biggest bag I've weighed was at Lake Gunnersville, and I'm pretty sure it was like 25.5 pounds for 5 fish. But I'm sure it was either 25 or 26 pounds. I feel like I really should remember that, and I don't.
That's some big fish, though. That's a good bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm, the thing, it's one of the things that bugs me is I'm not the guy that goes out and catches like a monster bag and uses that big weight from one day to coast throughout the tournament. I feel like I'm always the guy that's catching consistent, like, top 50 bags, which is great because it gets me where I want to go. But I want to be the guy that goes out and catches like that 25-pound bag on day one and then can like sleep in on day two and still make the cut. I'm never that guy. So that I need to figure out how to go about catching monster bags and be able to like relax a little bit on the day off or the next day. And so we'll see. So
it sounds like what you need to do is like take your mental bait lineup and like reverse it.
I'll do all my superstitions, do them in reverse or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining because I've done very well in the sport, but when I think back like to that question, how many 20-pound bags I've weighed in 12 years, it's not many. I mean, it's probably, man, I don't know, 6, 7. And that's not even one a year, which I realize a lot of it's dependent on the lakes that we go to. Some lakes you go to, 12 pounds is a really good day. Mm-hmm. But we've gone to enough places that are known for producing lots of 20-pound bags that I just haven't done that. I got to work on that. I got to figure that out. It's a good question, Jay. Thank you.
The other thing that I'm a little bit interested in, you mentioned your superstitions. Do you have one that you can share?
Oh man, just one.
God, well, I mean, I just didn't want to get too personal, but like that's, I don't know, I'm interested.
I mean, I gotta tell you, Emily, like it's one of those things that, I mean, if you have a good day on the water, you get off, and I mean, you want to replicate the exact day the next day. So whether that means I'm wearing the same clothes, I'm definitely guilty of doing that. I've got issues with making the bed, which really sounds weird, but like when I'm at home here, I'll make the bed because my wife wants me to make the bed. But generally, if I'm out on the tour, I'll just swing the sheets up and make, and just pull the covers up, right?
Yeah.
But when I say make the bed, I'm like making it like hotel quality.
They come in and think nobody slept in there.
Yeah, no, I seriously don't know why I do it. I mean, I could rattle these off all day long. And I don't know, it's probably some sort of OCD type thing, but with as much driving as I do, I'm always getting gas receipts and receipts. Whatever I spend, I save the receipt. I carry a folder in my truck. I put the receipts in the folder, and I've got a separate folder for every tournament in the truck. So they're all in like a file folder. And every one of those receipts, you better believe, is put in a manner that none of the corners are going to get wrinkled or bent over. If I shove it in there and it like creates a mess, I'll pull it out, flatten it, make it perfect. And it all goes back to a tournament I did well in, and I started doing that. And now I do it I've done it for years now. Every receipt is in there perfect. I pull them out at the end of the year and they look like perfect, crisp, like dollar bills, right? I mean, they're like, you get a new dollar bill, you're like, has this one ever been used? That's how I feel about the receipts. They look that good. I mean, like everyone talks about the banana in the boat. Like you can't have a banana in the boat. That I could care less about that. I eat bananas all the time. But I do carry a sword in my boat that like a kid sword that I've had with me for, I mean, it's probably close to 20 years at this point. And I've got my quirks. I definitely have my superstitions. All of us do. It's so funny though. Yes. Like, I'll room with probably 4 different guys, in the house that I'm rooming with. Right now I'm rooming with Chris Groh and Mark Fisher. But, there may be a guy that comes and goes from there. But it's funny because we'll always tease each other about why we're doing things, because we all know what it is. Like, we all know, like, with Chris, I always joke, you got the same underwear on, because I know he wears the same dirty pair of underwear. He'll wear that same pair for all week. I mean, it's... But it's hard. You find me a fisherman that doesn't have a superstition. You guys got to have something, I bet.
Yeah, I was wondering what yours was.
I was gonna ask you first. Shoot. Okay, I have almost, I guess, the backwards of it that I was thinking of. Like, I have a sweatshirt that I've been like insistent on making it my good luck sweatshirt, and honestly, every time I go out in it, I just like don't do all that great, but not bad enough to call it a bad luck sweatshirt.
I've got a lot of hats that I've chalked up to being like, oh, you really like the hat.
Yeah.
And you wear it, and I've gotten to the point I won't wear them anymore because they have failed me.
A perfect hat to donate to somebody else.
You need to get rid of that sweatshirt. It's probably not a striker sweatshirt, is it?
It's yes, and it's the red hockey hoodie that they haven't sold for a few years that I love because it laces up at the top and it's comfortable. I love that thing. Speaking of sturgeon, I did catch a sturgeon in that though, so it is kind of some.
Yeah, you have a 70-inch sturgeon in that picture. I think it's good enough luck. You just spent all the year's luck on the one fish. So
just right.
We'll just have to make sure we're fishing for the species that we want at the end of the season.
Yeah. You know what you can do to get over that? You take the sweatshirt and you put it in a bucket with like 3-4 dozen minnows, let it soak for a couple of days, and then you're good to go.
And then you're good.
Don't wash it.
You gotta wear it wet.
Yeah. Well, you can let it dry. It just gets a little musty. But
take the minnow out of the pocket.
Yeah. You give that one a try. Let me know how that works.
I will let you know for sure. I will make a video for it. What's your superstition?
I'm sitting here trying to think of one. I mean, I have lots of routine. So I have lots of things that will throw me off if I don't do it. I mean, so I guess in a sense that is kind of like that. And I think we figured one out this weekend. We were traveling and So I was asked to come help at a ladies photo shoot for Striker this weekend. Just help with like help camera gear and move stuff around and things like that. And one of the requests was that we were going to unload vehicles, like the ladies were going to unload vehicles for pictures. And it was super early in the morning and whatever. And I found myself just having a massive amount of anxiety letting Emily unload the vehicle. And it's not because she can't do it. Don't get me wrong. Like, Emily can do all the fishing stuff herself. But I found, and I was thinking to myself, like, and every time we go fishing, like, I'm cursing everything in the back of the truck because it's not like fitting. And then when I forget to put something in a spot, and then I have to take all of it out and put it back in. And then I'm sitting here thinking while they're doing the shoot, and I'm like, you know what it is? That's like my mental checklist of knowing that I have all the stuff. And now if somebody takes it all out without me taking it out and then puts it back in, I won't know if all the stuff is back in there. And so now I have this anxiety. I don't know if all the stuff is right. So I guess maybe that's something. Does that count? That's a weird thing.
It counts because I'm always standing there like, I want to help.
Don't help me.
Don't you dare touch that.
Now you've got your excuse not to help.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the routine. He insisted.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll just hang out with the fin dog.
Yeah. You guys sit in the truck. I got it.
That is so funny.
No, it's funny because towards the end of the season, like, we're both pretty wore out with all the gear hauling in and out and stuff. And we start thinking about the days when all we have to do is Emily drives the boat on the trailer, and then I crank once or twice, crank, and then we take off. That's it.
I call that that's what I rotate. A lot of people rotate like their clothes in their dresser or whatever, and I feel like what I've started doing now is rotating Striker ice to cool wave gear. Like, it's just a flow from the winter into the summer gear, and it is a phenomenal feeling to be able to get the shorts out and get the sun shirts and all of that. It's a good feeling. I'm going nuts right now. I mean, winters drive me nuts. They really do. And once we get to like February, it's like the days can't burn fast enough until like open water.
It does make me laugh that you're over there like pulling your shorts out and stuff already, but like I don't know if you're down in Texas, that does make sense, I guess.
Yeah, Florida's gonna be nice on the 13th through the 16th, hopefully.
Yeah. I plan on wearing lots of shorts when I get down there.
Do you fish in sandals?
I fish barefoot.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I take the sandals, but I kick the sandals off when I get in the boat. I would rather fish barefoot or I'd rather fish in like gym shoes, just because I'm clumsy as it is, and for me trying to get around in the boat with sandals on, I mean, they just, being that, they're not necessarily connected to your foot, right? They're hanging off or whatever, and I end up like tripping on the trolling motor pedal or tripping on rod. It's a mess. So the choice there is either to fish barefoot or to fish with gym shoes on, and I just tend to go with the barefoot.
You know what that means, though? You must have at least a semi-clean boat that you don't have hooks laying around.
I really can't believe, knock on wood, that I've had hooks in me, but I've never gotten a hook in my foot from walking around barefoot, which is really flabbergasting to me. But I have had some accidents. Like I broke at the championship. We had the championship in Sturgeon Bay 2 years ago, and I'm going down so I ended up, I hit an underwater stump, and
Oh no.
the boat stopped completely. I went forward and went to brace myself, and I ended up kicking the foot control with my big toe on my one foot. And I'm chuckling because I did that, and it took like, man, I'm gonna say like 8 months for the nail to fall off.
Oh no.
And I actually made a video out of my toenail where I used it to replace the lip on a broken crankbait.
Oh my
And
god.
I took it out on the river, and I mean, I'm telling you what, you'd never know the difference. Like I caught 3 or 4 smallmouth on it, and it worked unbelievably well.
Oh my god.
And I made the video, and I was like, oh my God, I just made a viral video. Like, this is going to be one of the greatest videos on all of YouTube. And it ended up being like one of my absolute worst videos, and people just were completely repulsed that I took a nail and made a crankbait lip out of it. So yeah, that's the biggest casualty I've had from fishing barefoot.
That's actually really funny. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to your YouTube more for your chickens than your toenail.
I think you may only find one video of each, so.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, it's amazing how fast time flies, and we could sit here talking about fishing all night. And I'll admit, you said that you had 2 tip-ups there with you that I was dying all night to ask about, and we were out of time. So we're gonna have to do that next time.
They're ready to go for next time. I'll have them out. I'll have them ready.
Awesome. But for everybody at home who is, interested in checking out your YouTube or continuing to follow you on your MLF tour and all your fishing adventures, how can they go about doing that?
All of my social media is Matt Stefan Fishing. So if they want to learn more about me, they can go to my personal website, mattstefanfishing.com. Otherwise, you'll find out plenty about me by watching my daily YouTube videos, Matt Stefan Fishing. You can check out the other social media sources as well, but YouTube is my go-to thing right now. I'm enjoying that, doing lots of fun, crazy videos like putting my toenail on crankbaits.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, and we know that we will continue to, follow you with, all of your tournaments this year,
Mm-hmm.
and, your videos, but, we're rooting for you. We're looking forward to seeing how it all goes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Anytime you want me to come on, I love this. This is a lot of fun. You guys, I just enjoy this. This is a good time.
Yeah.
This is us.
Yeah, us too. And to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because we do love to hear your questions and comments and different things along the way. And other than that, we're looking forward to seeing you on the next week's episode of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.